Hello and welcome back to the third rail. I'd like to follow up on a few points which wouldn't justify a dedicated video on their own. So after thinking long and hard about the best way to do this, I decided to package a couple of them along with other updates in this first checkpoint video. I intend to use this format to publish minor clarifications or corrections, reply to comments or suggestions, and provide channel updates. Checkpoints will be inserted in the regular schedule on an ad hoc basis once enough material has accumulated to justify a video. So I'll start this first ever checkpoint video by welcoming all recent subscribers. The channel passed the 2000 subscriber mark a few weeks ago. Hooray! A number I wouldn't have expected it would ever reach when I uploaded my first ever video a few years back. It is nice to see the old toys are still good enough to attract and keep people coming back. Your interest is what motivates me to keep producing content, so thank you very much for all your support, be it through a subscription, a like or a comment. This is all very rewarding and it keeps me going. Next, I'd like to follow up on a recent video I made titled Refurbishing Pickup Shoes, where I used DIY electroplating to restore worn pickup shoe sliders. I mentioned I would provide an update once I knew more about the durability of the plating. Now this could have taken a long while, so I decided to do a small endurance test to try and establish a baseline to get an idea of the minimum longevity. I set up a simple oval with a turnout to simulate driving conditions on the layout at a smaller scale. I have filmed it, but I foolishly deleted my footage by accident, so this track plan will have to do, and you will have to trust me on this. I equipped a locomotive with the pickup shoe I treated in the video. It's this old 3075 you've seen many times on testing duties if you follow the channel. And I let it run around that oval for a few hours at a time over the course of a few days. I changed direction every hour or so during the test, and I took pictures of the pickup shoe in the process to document any sign of deterioration. And here are the pictures. Over the first few hours first, here's the pickup shoe after 2 hours, then 3 hours, then 4 hours, and 5 hours. We can see an increasing buildup of black deposits. This is coming from the old M-track I used for the test. I didn't clean the point contact in the center, so whatever was on them got picked up by the pickup shoe. The test carried on for a while longer. Here is the pickup shoe at 7 hours, then 2 hours later at 9 hours, then a while later at 12 hours, and finally 15 hours. Now at that point I got bored, and as there was no real difference between 7 and 15 hours, I decided to stop there. I immediately gave the pickup shoe a quick wipe to try and get rid of the black muck that had accumulated, and here's the result. As we can see, there is no sign of exposed brass, so the plating has passed this test, I'd say. I calculated that during that time the pickup shoe covered a distance of 12.4 kilometers. That's real kilometers, not scale kilometers. Here is another picture of the pickup shoe after a polish this time, and I think the plating speaks for itself, and it's fair to assume the experiment could have gone on for much longer. Now, no locomotive would work like this in real life, so let's try and put this result in perspective with a bit of maths. What do these 15 hours represent in terms of normal operations? So I'll use my example, my layout, because that's the thing I have and I know best. Now, the journey time over the longest route on the layout takes 90 seconds without stopping. As you know, if you follow the channel, a block system is set up on this route, so 7 trains can travel simultaneously. In this scenario, a locomotive will go around the layout 12 times per hour, which adds up to 18 minutes actual travel time. A typical running session lasts 4 hours, so each locomotive would be on the move for a total of 72 minutes. The 15 hours baseline from the test would represent the equivalent of 12.5 running sessions based on those figures. Not bad! Now, I do about 8 running sessions a year, and I try to cycle through the collection in the process. Now, considering the size of the collection, a locomotive will only hit the track every second year or so at this rate. So, a locomotive comes out every 2 years for a 4-hour running session, during which it will be on the move for 72 minutes. At this rate, it would take 25 years to use our 15 hours baseline up. We have to remember that the 15-hour baseline is only a minimum. It's likely to be much longer than that. So there we go. You now have a few facts and figures. You can compare these to whatever is happening on your layout or with your collection, and that should help you figuring out whether electroplating would be worth the effort on your side. This is something I'm going to carry on doing on my side. Now, a little correction I have been meaning to make for a few months. I made a little helper video about the Märklin 7051 crane a while back. I didn't mention something related to the design and operation of the winch and cab. I stated that there was nothing to check in the cab, which is not quite right. So let's start with a quick refresher. The crane is equipped with 2 motors. One turns the cab, the other one powers the winch. The power is transferred using a vertical double shaft in the tower. The inner shaft is equipped with a worm gear, which is connected to a gear on the winch shaft. This lifts or lowers the crane hook depending on the direction of the motor. Now let's look at what happens to the winch gear when the cab turns. We can see that it rotates as it travels around the idle worm gear. This would rotate the winch shaft if the power was transmitted directly, and the hook would go up or down every time the cab moves as a result. Now, this is not a desired outcome, so to prevent this, a bit of Märklin engineering came to the rescue in the form of a clutch. This is the bit I omitted to mention in the original video. The gear is sandwiched between a stopper and a clutch plate, in between 2 rubber spacers. A strong spring keeps the clutch plate under tension at all time, and pushes the rubber spacers and gear against the stopper. The only part physically attached to the shaft in this contraption is the stopper. Everything else is floating. When the lifting function is activated, the gear will turn. This will generate friction with the rubber spacers. They will stick to the gear and the other elements of the clutch. The clutch will engage. Power will be transmitted to the stopper as a result, and the winch shaft will start moving. If the lifting function is switched off and the cab is rotating, the gear will turn as it travels around the worm gear, but the friction generated will not be enough for the rubber spacers to stick. So the gear will slip between them, the clutch will not engage, and the winch will remain stationary. How clever is that? Now, this clutch is very reliable. I own 5 cranes and I must have touched at least 10 others over the years. I never encountered a stuck clutch, so it's not a point that would need special attention in my opinion. But if your hook suddenly starts going up or down when the cab is turning and you haven't activated the lifting, then you would have to check the clutch isn't stuck. It's very unlikely to happen in my opinion. There is one thing you are more likely to encounter. If the clutch gear is not positioned properly in relation to the lifting shaft, then you may find the cab wobbles when operating the winch. You can see the behavior now on screen on the other crane at the center of the layout. If you watch carefully, you should see that the boom wobbles or vibrates. That is not standard behavior. Now you can fix that by adjusting the position of the clutch gear. This is done by moving the stopper, as everything else is pushed against it by the clutch spring. There is a grub screw, also known as set screw in the States, I think. You can loosen it to slide the stopper in the desired position. This will push the other elements of the clutch. You might need to apply quite a bit of pressure to do this, as the spring is extremely strong here. This type of screw is fragile, so you might want to apply some penetrating fluid at the first sign of resistance and give it time to do its job. Note that another point you need to check if you start seeing the behavior is that the tower shaft is standing at 90 degrees to the base of the tower. Now, I described how to do this in the original video, so you just have to go and have a look there. This correction was triggered by a comment left for this video, and this is an aspect of the channel I really like. I really enjoy reading your comments, and they sometimes encourage me to dig a bit deeper in a topic and discover new things, as was the case for the crane. I had never looked closely at this aspect of its configuration before. Talking about comments, here is another one that comes back regularly in one form or another. For example, as a question: can we see your collection? Well, to be honest, I thought I was doing this already with every new video I make. I always try to get something you haven't seen before out of the drawers for the occasion. I think I understand where the question is coming from. I keep every item I have in the collection in its box, and I don't use display cabinets or shelves. I'd be looking at boxes all the time, which would be a bit boring. You might have noticed this plastic contraction in the background of some of my videos. This is where the collection lives. We have the locomotives nearest the layout, the freight section in front of us, and the passenger section to the right, which carries over to an overflow chest under the layout. The locomotive section contains about 130 locomotives. Everything is arranged by model number in ascending numerical order. If we look at a drawer, this one contains 10 locomotives, but that can go up to 15 depending on the packaging. When stuff is stacked, it is to a maximum of 2 in height. This avoids breakages and keeps everything within easy reach. Let's move to the freight section in front of us. We have smaller drawers here. Let me open the first one. I think it can fit up to 28 4400 series 15 centimeter wagons. Everything is still ordered by model number in ascending order, and it goes all the way up to 4700 series. Again, packaging varies, so the capacity of the drawer varies too, and I have left a few gaps here and there for things I know I will need to get. Then we follow with the passenger section, started from 4000 and going up. The majority is on the right in the taller section here. Capacity here is a bit different, of course. If we look at the drawer, for example, we have 24 centimeter coaches in cardboard packaging, and I can fit up to 16 of these in a drawer. With other types of packaging, the number goes down to 12, like here. And for shorter cars and other types of packaging, the capacity will also go up or down, depending, of course. If we move to the overflow chest, we have the last 4200 coaches there. It is also where I keep export editions of refrigerated cars that were listed in the export model brochures in the 1980s. So, all in all, we have just over 680 wagons and coaches at the moment. So, you have now seen the collection. I have one more little update. I'll finish the video with some news on the new layout, or better said, no news, because nothing has happened since the last video on the topic. The plan is more or less ready to go, but I have been procrastinating. I kind of like what I have now as well, which makes the process a bit more difficult than usual. In the meantime, something called life has had time to catch up with me, among other things, some building maintenance work that was not scheduled and would interrupt the build. So I have to wait until that is done and have to put this on hold until such time I have a clear window of a few weeks to do some work on the new layout. So we'll have to wait a bit longer for that. That's it. We are all caught up as far as this checkpoint is concerned, I think. I hope you found the video interesting one way or another. Hopefully enough for you to give it a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe to the channel. Thanks for staying with me that long today, and bye for now.